The greatest of all monumental 18th century town plans is undoubtedly the Bretez-Turgot Plan de Paris. The plan depicts Paris in 1739 during the reign of Louis XV and comprises 20 printed folio sheets of paper on a scale of approximately 1:400, measuring a vast 2.5 square meters. In 1734, Michel-Étienne Turgot, chief of the municipality as provost of the merchants of Paris, commissioned a new plan to record and promote the city to Parisian, provincial and foreign elites. Turgot employed Louis Bretez, a professor of perspective, to undertake the work. He was given permission to enter all the residences of Paris in order to gain accurate measurements of the drawings. The endeavour would take 2 years. It would take a further 3 years for the plan to be engraved, and the completed work was finally published in 1739. The plan is in perspective cavaliere, whereby the viewer looks down the buildings as a rider on a horse would survey the countryside. Bretez here employs a geometric sleight of hand that enables the buildings to appear in a uniform scale across the map, whilst also giving an overview of the city. Paris is shown as if the viewer were facing east, with her buildings depicted as they would have been encountered if entering the city along the Seine, the route used by many visitors. Buildings can be seen on the bridges, all of which would be demolished later in the century. A remarkable feature of the map is that human life is confined solely to the river, and if one looks carefully at those sailors depicted, they appear as giants in comparison to the buildings that surround them. Also notable is the sheer volume of timber needed to keep the fires of Paris burning. It can be seen stored on or around the river, such as on the Ile de la Cygne, named after the swans placed there by royal decree in 1676. Leaving the river, the viewer can take a tour around some of the famous sites of 18th century Paris. The Palais des Tuileries, now the home of the Tuileries Gardens. The palace was the Parisian royal residence for French monarchs, from Henry IV to Napoleon III. It was gutted by a fire begun by the Paris Commune in 1871 and pulled down in 1883. To the north lies La Place de Vendôme, laid out in 1702 as a monument to the glory of the armies of Louis XIV, with an over life-sized equestrian statue of the king set up in its centre. The statue was destroyed during the Revolution, later replaced by Napoleon with a column celebrating his victory at Austerlitz. The Louvre, originally built as a fort in the 12th century, was converted into a royal palace in 1546, and by the 18th century it was used to display the king's collection. After the Revolution, the Louvre became a museum to display the nation's masterpieces, and is now, of course, the world's most visited museum. On Ile de la Cité stands l'Église de Notre-Dame, one of the masterpieces of Gothic architecture. The cathedral, begun in 1160, would take 100 years to build. It is here shown with its spire, which, due to damage, would be removed later in the 18th century. On the left bank of the Seine, so on the right of the map, is Le Palais de Luxembourg, commissioned by Marie de Medici, Henry IV's widow, in 1611. The world-famous gardens, meticulously depicted on the plan, were laid out at the same time in the fashionable parterre style. In total, the plan shows 11 arrondissements in fascinating detail, from great palaces, churches and mansions, to the woodpiles, orchards and windmills in the countryside. Such was the detail of the survey and the splendour of the engraving that from the date of publication until well into the 19th century, handsomely bound volumes of the plan were presented to foreign dignitaries as the official gift of the city. One example was even sent to the court of the emperor in China.